Are you tired of feeling like your stomach has its own agenda? Like the bloating, gas, or constant trips to the bathroom are running your life? Welcome to the Beyond Bloated podcast, the podcast where we tackle those frustrating gut issues head on, without strict diets or giving up your favorite foods. I'm Carly, a certified gut health coach who's been there, struggling with bloating that made me look 6 months pregnant, gut pain that kept me from enjoying meals, and fatigue so draining it felt impossible to get through the day. Now, I help women like you find freedom from those symptoms and take back control of their lives. Each week, we'll debunk gut health myths, dive into simple, actionable tips, and hear stories from women who've been exactly where you are. It's time to feel confident, energized, and bloat-free. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Beyond Bloated podcast, or welcome for the very first time. This week, I am dropping a hot take episode on you. This is probably my hottest take episode that I've ever done, because being controversial on the internet makes people angry. And I'm not trying to make people angry, but I do feel like this is a topic that I want to talk about, because I don't want you wasting your time and your money and having you be distracted by shiny object syndrome. If it isn't already obvious from the episode title, the controversial topic that I am talking about today is why I do not believe that gut testing should be step one in your gut health journey. And this is coming from someone who has a math degree, who loves data and numbers and facts. And I did a lot of these fancy tests myself, which is exactly why I have this opinion. Before anyone gets all fired up over this, I do want to clarify that I am not anti-test, just like I'm not anti-supplement. I'm just anti-misplaced testing and anti-over-supplementation. What I am talking about today is directed at the person who is very early in their gut health journey, hasn't really made a whole lot of progress. Maybe they've been going it alone for a really long time. They haven't worked with a professional, a health coach, some sort of practitioner who can provide them with legit guidance and isn't just pushing tests and supplements on them. And the person who is feeling very confused, overwhelmed with all the different information out there online. They're not sure where to start, so they're feeling a little stuck. The reason why I am speaking to this type of person is because I believe that testing can be a waste of time and money when you are at the start of your gut health journey. And that is not coming from someone who hates data. It is coming from someone who had to learn this the hard way. The very first thing I did in my gut health journey was get a food sensitivity test done. I started experiencing stabbing gut pains, diarrhea, food sensitivities all of a sudden popping up in my mid-20s. Out of the blue, or so it seemed. And the first thing I did was look up a naturopath near me that did some sort of food sensitivity test that didn't require me to give blood, because I have a massive fear of needles and I didn't want to have to do some sort of blood test. So I found it. I found a naturopath around the corner from me who offered a type of food sensitivity test that did not require me to give my blood. The reason why this was my first step was because all of a sudden I would eat food, I would be in pain, I would be running to the washroom. I looked 6 months pregnant every single day, and this was just going on and on daily. So I came to the conclusion that food must be the problem all of a sudden, even though I could eat it up until the age of 24 without issue. Now, for whatever reason, food is the problem, and I need to figure out exactly what foods are the problem so I can stop eating them and go back to living my life. It seemed like a very simple solution. I'm going to go do this test. It's going to print me off a list saying yes, no, maybe for a bunch of different foods. And I'm going to follow this list. And it's going to be super helpful because it's going to tell me exactly what I have to do, what I have to eat, what I can't eat. And there we go. And then I'm all good. I thought this was so great that I did this exact same food sensitivity test 3 different times over the years, because I learned that food sensitivities can shift and change over time. So I just kept thinking, well, I need a new updated list. That's why I still don't feel better, because things have shifted and now I need a new list of foods to eat and avoid, so then I'll feel better. This is delusional behavior, in my opinion. Even after doing this food sensitivity test for the third time, I was still bloated every single day, and I still had digestive issues. What the test did provide me with was an extremely limited diet, years and years of food fear that had developed from this list, thinking that if I eat something that's in red, I'm going to die, basically. I had a constant mental load around eating. I was always thinking about, how am I going to go out to eat with my friends? How am I going to go to this person's event? How am I going to stay overnight here? What am I going to eat for breakfast, lunch, dinner? It was just like a constant plan in my brain of, how am I going to stick to this foods list while existing and living my life? And ultimately, that brought on a whole lot of unnecessary stress, and I ended up losing an unhealthy amount of weight. Even though at the time, I did think I was being proactive and smart. I was getting this test done. I was figuring out what foods are bothering me, eliminating them, and everything was going to be all good. Looking back now, I can see how it really just pulled me farther away from what my body actually needed, which was nourishment and calm and less stress and more sleep and movement and all of the foundational things that I was ignoring because I was just too busy obsessing over this piece of paper with foods highlighted in green, yellow, or red. My own experience and seeing this happen to other women as well is exactly why I now believe that data, even though I love it, can distract us from the foundations, from what we actually need to do to improve our digestive system so we can eat those foods again. Collecting a bunch of data with no rhyme or reason or plan is quite useless. The data that we collect is only going to be useful if it is interpreted correctly, which in my case and in a lot of other people's cases, it's not. I was told, avoid these foods. See ya. Data also needs to be used at the right time for it to be useful. And in my opinion, and I'm going to talk more about this today, I don't think step one is collect a bunch of overwhelming data that's going to make you afraid of food and distract you from what needs to be done. And the data also needs to answer the right questions. Most gut tests answer what, but not why. Okay, great. I'm reacting to 500 different foods. Why? It doesn't tell me that. It doesn't give me that information. How do I correct this? It doesn't tell me that either. If you get a food sensitivity test done, the test may show you you're reacting to all of these different foods. Why am I reacting to them? What can I do to improve that so I'm not reacting to all of these foods? If you get a GI map done, it may show you that the bacteria in your gut is imbalanced. Great. Why? How did that happen? How do I prevent it from happening again in the future? Maybe the GI map indicates that you have low enzymes or stomach acid. Again, great. That's helpful, sure, but why? And what do I do to fix it? If we don't address the conditions that created those results, the data just sends us in circles. And that's exactly what happened to me. After working with many women over the years, I have come to the conclusion that we want to rely on testing because it appears like it is giving us an answer. It looks like it's telling us this is what's wrong, and then we have to do something to correct it. It seems like a fast-track solution. Okay, I'm going to do this GI map. It's going to show me which good gut bacteria I'm low in, and I'm just going to take a probiotic, and then it'll all be good. We're looking for the quick fix solution via testing. Because the other thing that I have noticed after working with dozens of women over the years is that realistically, the majority of us are not eating 3 balanced meals a day. Most of us are skipping meals like breakfast or working through lunch or just under eating in general. Many of us are sleeping 5-6 hours a night, not getting the recommended 8+ hours. And even if you are, is it good quality sleep? A lot of us have super high stress jobs. We work too much. We overwork ourselves. I'm guilty of this myself. Even if you love your job, you probably work too hard because you love it. And when we love our job or hate our job, we are at that job sitting most of the day, especially if it's a desk office job. And if you have digestive issues, you're constantly thinking about food. What can I eat at this work lunch? Should I skip breakfast today? Should I eat breakfast today? Is this sandwich going to cause me to shit my pants 5 minutes later? It is obsessive and it's stressful. And to be completely honest with you, if this is your reality, I already know you don't feel well. We don't need a test to explain that to us. If you are chronically stressed, I know that that is reducing your stomach acid and digestive enzyme output. If you are under eating, I know that is slowing your motility and causing you to have blood sugar swings. If you are not sleeping well, I know that is going to cause you to have impaired gut repair, so your gut is likely leaky and not able to repair itself. If you have a super sedentary lifestyle, I know that's going to slow down your motility and you're probably constipated and bloated. By simply understanding how digestion works and hearing about somebody's symptoms, how they're reacting to foods, paired with their diet, lifestyle, mentality, all of these things together, we can kind of figure out a really good starting place without having to do a test. The GI map is often hyped up as being the go-to gut test. I personally did this test myself, and I did do it later in my journey, which made it more useful because I had already been doing a lot of the foundations and I was kind of missing a piece. Something was still not right. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this GI map and see what it shows me. Maybe I'm missing something. Honestly, my results showed nothing remarkable. It wasn't like I had some massive infection or parasites or some sort of bacteria that was ruining my life. I had a little bit of a bacterial imbalance. I did have low pancreatic function, and some markers indicated low stomach acid. The missing piece was that it still didn't tell me why. Why was this still the case, even though I had cleaned up my diet and I was working on the foundations and all that stuff? I even met with a naturopath who went through the test with me, and she told me that I might have celiac disease, which I do not. She also told me to take a probiotic to fix the imbalance of gut bacteria, and she really did not say anything about the stomach acid or low enzyme output. That is something that I ended up researching later on and figured out on my own, because that seems to be what you have to do these days, unfortunately. My aha moment was realizing that the many years of me dealing with food fear because of the chronic restriction and obsession over food and just my gut health in general had my nervous system constantly on high alert. And as I have mentioned 4 billion times on this podcast, when we are in a constant state of fight or flight, our bodies will not produce stomach acid and digestive enzymes that are required to break down your meal, which is going to lead to fermentation, bloating, and gas. And that is what was happening to me. Even though I was eating better, I was moving my body more, I was sleeping better, I wasn't dealing with stress. I just thought, I'm not stressed out. I'm generally a pretty chill person. I don't have a lot of stressors in my life, luckily, but I was ignoring the stress of obsessing over food and my diet and my gut health. If I would have just focused on managing my stress and doing those foundational things from the start, many of those markers would have improved on their own without me needing to chase them and obsess over them and spend $800 on a GI map test to figure out what deep down I already knew. It would have been interesting to see what my GI map would have looked like at the very start of my gut health journey, back when I was in my vodka Sunny D and Harvey's hamburger and milkshake era, because I bet it was absolutely atrocious. And if I would have seen that at the start of my gut health journey, I probably would have had a full-blown panic attack because I was having severe digestive issues, immune system issues. I was getting chronic infections. I was exhausted. When I actually did do the GI map years later, I had eliminated the majority of those symptoms, which is why I said my results really weren't that remarkable. But I bet if I had done that at the start, it would have been way different and horrifically terrifying to see. So I'm actually glad that I didn't, even though the data nerd in me would be curious to see what it would have looked like then versus what it looks like now. So overall, I think the GI map test is a super cool, informative test. I love data. I do like the facts, and it was enjoyable for me to get those results. It truly was. I did it about 4 or 5 years into my journey to figure out if there was any lingering issue that I was missing. Turns out it was stress. But do I think it's completely necessary to do that at the very start? No, because by working on nutrition, sleep, stress, movement, mindset, and all of the foundational things combined, you can correct a lot of those imbalances that are going to show up on the GI map and you'll save yourself a lot of money in the process. I also want to circle back to food sensitivity testing for a minute because I know it is also a very popular test that people do when they're experiencing gut issues. And the reason why I want to come back to this is because I want to be very clear when I say food sensitivities are not permanent. They are very dynamic. They are not fixed. Your food sensitivities can change in weeks to months, depending on what's happening in the gut, immune system, and your nervous system. They're not like true food allergies, which are typically stable. Food sensitivities change. I had so many food sensitivities 7 years ago. Now, I literally have 0. I've worked with clients before who have told me they avoid like really random foods, like some sort of fruit or vegetable or bean. Eggs is a really popular one too. And I'm like, okay, why? Do you notice you don't feel well when you eat that? And they say, oh, I did a food sensitivity test and it told me to avoid it. And I said, okay, when did you do that test? 3 years ago.
Okay, pause for a second. Have you taken my bloat personality quiz yet? It's totally free and honestly, freakishly accurate. This quick 2-minute quiz will help you figure out exactly which habits and patterns are behind your bloating, the ones no one ever talks about, and it gives you personalized, simple steps you can start using today to feel less bloated and more comfortable in your jeans. If you've ever wondered, why am I always bloated, even when I eat healthy, this quiz is your first clue. Head to beyondbloated.com/bloat-personality-quiz, or the link is in the show notes. Take the quiz and then send me your result. I love seeing which bloat personality everyone gets. Now, let's get back to the show.
If you did a test 3 years ago and it told you to avoid those foods, that is no longer relevant today. Your food sensitivities have changed since then. Your gut has changed since then. So if you are blindly following a list that was printed out and given to you even months ago, that is no longer relevant. These food sensitivities are usually related to your gut barrier integrity, aka do you have leaky gut or not? Microbiome balance, so are your good and gut bacteria living in a sick, perfect harmony, or is there some imbalance going on there? Your digestive capacity, are you producing stomach acid, enzymes, and bile as you should to break down the foods that you're eating? Your stress and nervous system state, that was my issue. And it's a lot of other women's issues as well. Trust me. And also the frequency or exposure to a food. That is important. Foods that you eat frequently can show up on a food sensitivity test as being reactive, even if they're not. So this means if you start managing your stress better and slowing down at meal times, eating more mindfully, your body might start to produce more stomach acid and enzymes, and now you're able to digest more foods. That will change your food sensitivities. Or maybe you're working on your gut health, getting more sleep, eating more nutrient-dense foods, moving your body. You're no longer constipated, so things are moving through you more smoothly and regularly. That's improved your microbiome. You now have a more balanced microbiome. You have more good gut bacteria. Maybe that's helping strengthen your gut lining so it's not so leaky anymore. That's going to change your food sensitivities as well. So doing a food sensitivity test at the start of your journey, before you've even tried working on the foundations, usually leads to a hyperfixation on what is allowed. As I mentioned, I have clients coming to me saying, I haven't eaten XYZ in 4 years because this test said not to. That also leads to fear around eating out or with friends or literally anywhere outside of their own home where they're not in control of the food. They can also lose their hunger cues because now they're afraid of eating, so they don't eat super regularly. They're undernourishing their bodies. Your body is trying to protect you. It goes into survival mode, and you no longer feel hungry when you actually are. And all of this is obviously leading to increased digestive symptoms, which nobody wants. The overall takeaway here is that digestion does not work well in a body that is scared of food. And in my experience and what I have witnessed in others, food sensitivity tests typically put a lot of fear into people around food. At the end of the day, if you have the money and you want to get a test done, have at her. I am not anti-test. I just am trying to save you some time and money and obsession, because it really is no sweat off my back if you go do a test. It can be helpful, sure, but the foundations are what is going to do the heavy lifting for you, not some test result. In my programs, we do not use testing, and that is because I find them to be distracting. At the start of someone's gut health journey, people tend to obsess over that one result, over that food sensitivity test, or that one bacteria being out of balance, instead of focusing on the whole picture as to why are these things happening. I'm also trying to save you money, because realistically, could charge an extra $800 for my program and throw a test at you, but I don't think that's necessary, and I don't believe that's going to help anyone get better results than they're already getting without that test at the start. Instead, we focus on those foundational things that are going to move the needle and not cause obsession and food fear. Things like eating regular, balanced meals every day, making sure you're eating enough, and that includes hitting those protein, fiber, and carb goals, because we need to be eating complex carbs. Carbs are not the enemy. Promise you that. We also work on getting consistent, restful sleep, because that is when your gut repairs itself. Moving our bodies in a gentle, supportive way. We're not overdoing it. We're not underdoing it. We're seeing what works for you in your lifestyle, but we got to be moving. Managing stress. Not eliminating stress, but making the body more resilient to those life stressors. Stress ain't going anywhere. This is 2026. Everything is stressful all the time. We can try to eliminate some stress. If you have unnecessary stressors in your life, get them out of here. What we're trying to do is make your body tolerate that stress better, so that when you have your meals, you're not in fight or flight and not able to digest anything. And we try to build safety around food. We ditch the food fear. We're not trying to shame or eliminate foods for no reason. We add in as much as we can gut-nourishing foods that are going to make your body feel safe, supported, and greatly nourished, because that's all it wants. A few episodes back, I shared the statistics of my one-on-one coaching program from 2025, and by doing absolutely zero testing and just focusing on these foundations, my clients see an improvement of about 65% on average in their GI symptoms, like bloating, stomach pain, bowel irregularities, nausea, anything gut related has improved by an average of 65% without doing any test and without eliminating foods because a piece of paper told you to. These things that we work on in my program are not considered basic because they're easy, but they are basic because they are fundamental. They are literally the starting point. They are ground zero. If you are not doing these things, I believe a test is a waste of your time. Now, on the flip side of that, I do believe there is a time and a place for testing. I just don't believe it should be step one. If you have been focusing on these foundations and you have gotten very consistent with them, and I'm talking for months, you didn't do these things for a week and you're like, what the hell? I'm still bloated. Everything is a lie. No, I mean, you are eating 3 balanced meals every single day. You are getting 8 hours of sleep almost every single night. You move your body intentionally almost daily. You manage your stress. You do deep breathing. You go for walks. You do meditation, whatever works for you. And you have been doing these things for months and you have seen improvement. You are feeling better, but your symptoms kind of plateau. Then testing may be beneficial for you, because there might be something underlying that the foundations alone isn't going to correct. When testing starts with a very clear question, it can be helpful. But when it starts with curiosity or desperation, which many of us feel at the start of our gut health journeys, that's when I think it creates more confusion than clarity. For example, if you have had ongoing diarrhea for a really long time and the foundations are not improving that, that is cause for concern. Then I would recommend getting some sort of stool testing done to make sure there isn't an active infection or pathogenic bacteria that needs to be addressed. Similar situation if you recently went traveling, or you got food poisoning, or some sort of event that occurred that then caused symptoms where we could think, okay, maybe there is an infection or some sort of pathogenic bacteria that needs to be addressed, something that the foundations alone may not correct. But if you just have generally had stomach pain, food sensitivities, bloating, gas after meals, doesn't matter what you eat, you're tired all the time, there's no specific event that triggered it, there's no connection that you can make, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the foundations are not there, so your digestive system cannot work optimally. I like to think of testing as something that helps us rule in or out something that requires a very targeted approach. And if you think that may be you, and you do want to get a test to make sure that is being addressed properly, please make sure you have proper guidance to interpret those results, because many times people just get tests on their own and they don't know how to read it. Or they go to a practitioner who also doesn't know how to read it, because that happened to me. Or they do know how to read it, but they don't give you any interpretation as to why this has happened and what to do to improve it. The best way to look at it is to think, if these test results wouldn't change what you do next, you probably don't need the test yet. Throughout my own gut health journey, I did food sensitivity testing 3 different times. I did a hair sample test. I did a SIBO breath test. I did the GI map. And I also did an H. pylori breath test. And at the end of the day, I got to where I am today, not because of any of those test results. If anything, the test results that I did at the beginning put me on a swervy path and made me take longer to get here. I was chasing the data, I was chasing the rules, I was chasing some sort of magic answer that was going to pop out at me from these tests, and it didn't happen. I hope it also goes without saying that I'm not talking about standard blood tests. Please get those done. Work with your doctor. If you have diabetes, monitor your A1C. If you have a thyroid condition, monitor your TSH and your T3 and your T4. Get those blood labs done. That's not what we're talking about here. I am talking about the fancy pay out of pocket gut tests like food sensitivity testing or the GI map, things that I do not believe are necessary at the start of the journey to start seeing results. In my experience and in my opinion, most women do not need more information. We are overloaded with information in today's society. Many people come to me super overwhelmed with all the information out there. How do I know this is going to work? I've been trying this diet because I saw it online. I did this supplement because this influencer took it. Where do I start? There's too much information. We don't need to add more information to that. Instead, what we need is more support with the foundations, because no one that I have worked with, not a single person, is consistently nailing the foundations. And that is because if they were, they wouldn't be coming to me for help, because those people likely don't have gut issues. If you want to know where you should start working on the foundations, you can take my free bloat personality quiz on my website, beyondbloated.com/bloat-personality-quiz. Link is also in the show notes. It's a quick 2-minute quiz. You fill it out, and I will tell you which bloat personality you are, which is ultimately just going to inform you on which foundational habits you need to focus on the most, because that is what is holding you back from seeing results. The quiz is free. You can take it on my website. Links in the show notes. If you have any questions about your results, send me an email, carlyclose@beyondbloated.com, or reach out to me on Instagram @beyond.bloated. I'd also love to hear which bloat personality you get. So don't be a stranger. Reach out with any questions that you have, and I'll talk to you next week. Did you learn something new and useful today? If the answer is a big, resounding hell yeah, do me a favor. Subscribe to this podcast. Even better, toss a rating in there too. It helps more bloated babes discover this show and lets me keep bringing you this free, gut-loving content every single week. And hey, don't be greedy. Share this episode with your bestie who's always unbuttoning her pants after dinner. She will love you even more for it. Thanks for hanging out with me and showing your gut some love. Keep on putting what you learn into practice and you will be bloat-free in no time. Catch you in the next one. Bye.